Thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to be selfishly in my commentary here. I am the most excited for this session because I have had the opportunity to meet with Anjali, Patrick, and Andre several times before we have come here to meet with you all. And the one thing that I hope everybody gets out of this is that a demo program is a different shape and size in every organization. And when you hear from our customers here who are going to tell their stories today, not only are the programs different shapes and sizes, the way in which they are led and the teams that lead them are very different. So I'll give a very quick example in that Anjali is a member of a pre-sales, director of a pre-sales team at ServiceNow. She'll talk about what that demo program looks like, how they got to where they were going to be. Patrick is a technical marketing leader, also responsible for a demo program at ScienceLogic, and Andre at Shopify is a revenue technology lead dealing with all sorts of tech and is also a demo program lead. So you may be on this call going, is this going to be my challenge and opportunity? The answer is leadership of a demo program can come out of multiple different teams. Here, the common denominator is that the challenge is the same, right? How do we figure out how to show product in a way that accelerates sales cycles, makes the job and life easier of the entire go-to-market team, and is something that can scale. So without further ado, let's talk about how we make that happen. I will ask for anybody here who has questions, do put them into the chat. We will try to get to answers at the close here. We have been running kind of to time on each of these sessions, but we'll see. So with that, let's go into our first topic. So we're thinking about a demo program in 3 phases, first of which is getting started. Let's take a look at simple first question. What use cases and stakeholders did you prioritize first and why? And when I ask this question, it's often tied to when somebody comes to a demo program and says, like, this is a program I need to build for my organization, you're not starting at zero. You often have a series of use cases that are very obvious that you're looking to scale around, and that ends up being the foundation for your program, which is the nature of this question. So why don't we start with Patrick? Tell us a little bit more about the use cases and stakeholders that you thought about at ScienceLogic.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting for us. You know, we're a IT operations management and automation and increasingly AI operations platform. And the challenge there, of course, is that we've got multiple stakeholders, right? Each of whom have really different sets of constituents and stakeholders that need to all have access to demo content, right? So that might be sort of first touch marketing teams that actually need content that can be embedded on the website in the form of a product tour. But that also might be the sales enablement team who has different strata of demos, right? That's first call, second call. Maybe for us, we work with a lot of MSPs and GSIs who actually then have built IP on top of our platform. And so for them, that may be supporting go-to-market motion around their individual service offering. So that ability to try to figure out what is the kind of the 80-20 of how much content can you provide and reuse across multiple stakeholders is that first step. Because a lot of times you sort of think of demos as an ensemble cast, right? Like a lot of times there is no real demo program owner. You have different teams that provide different areas of demo content. And oftentimes the folks that'll end up assisting are the ones that sort of realize that they're in a position to help bring that into focus. So the first one for us, obviously, we had marketing needs to be able to drive leads and interest and initial interest in the product, but especially sales enablement, and second and third call support to be able to do highly targeted demos and lead behinds.
That's really helpful. There always is a starting point, and then hopefully a lot of hand raised around like, oh, we need this too.
Right.
What about,
well, and really
yeah,
kind of, I was going to say, remember that the demo is the demo of your demo program, if you will, right? So that first step, like if you actually can show value to one team, just pick one team that you know that they're going to be really excited about it and internally promote it, that may be the best place to start because it's going to get the rest of the organization excited about the possibilities for demo content.
The stakeholder piece, Patrick, and I'm going to reiterate this point. It's like anything. It's like if I have an idea of marketing, let's figure out the group that can get the most value out of V1 and really let it be the voice of what's good looks like so that the adoption is really, especially in the case of showing product, you need others to be able to say, hey, this really helps me do my job better. Awesome. What about Anjali for you?
So just a bit of context, I have led demo programs at 3 companies. ServiceNow is my 3rd company. And Patrick, going to what you were saying, actually, a lot of the companies don't have a demo program, but I have been very lucky to be part of these organizations where I joined. They actually had a demo program. And I joined at a time where it was getting sometimes, right, like just catching up with the growth. It's hard. But all these companies traditionally just have had live demo programs, right? And let's face it, we all know about it. They can be complex to create and even more complex to manage, right? And only people who create it actually understand the complexity of managing those demos. So I think in last 4 years, I have seen this shift, at least in the pre-sales world, right? Where it's initially it was like, hey, I need a demo, to really sort of questioning what do you need the demo and why do you need it in the first place? Because if you're starting maybe ground zero, I hope you all are thinking about it, right? But if you're not, you just get in the way things are done, right? And you just like are doing it the same ways. And at some point, it hits you. It's like, hey, it's too much. Like I need to stop and see what do I need and why do I need it, right? And all these companies, that has been the theme, right? How do we solve for the challenges that we are seeing in scaling these demo programs? And does it really need to be that complex? So for us, again, I think, Patrick, you touched a little bit on that, and I like those terms we use a lot at ServiceNow. The first meeting, second meeting, right, from pre-sales perspective, then you have live demo environment, and then maybe it goes to POC and evaluation. But traditionally, people have not thought about it, or they haven't like done that mapping, and it's just like live for all of the above use cases, right? So I think for us, it really started with like, hey, can we simplify, right? And can I have shorter demos? If I'm a buyer, they don't need to see all the time, like for 40 minutes demo. Of course, there is a place for those, right? And at ServiceNow, we have a big still live demo infrastructure that my team manages. But it's sort of that shift to let's not complicate it too much when you don't need to. And can you have these shorter demos of the same, like bigger demos? Can I have shorter canned demos that are easier for anybody to sort of go and sort of present?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. It's funny, Anjali, when you make that comment, I'm sure there are people here. I can't see the chat while I'm sharing my screen, but the question would be, in your org, when was showing a demo a sales stage? Like that was it. The idea was demo was like stage 2. And now you're going like, it's not that. It's not a 45-minute live demo all the time. It is, I buyer, expect to see some version of a product at every interaction. The context with which I see it will be different. And seeing the mindset shift to embrace that has really driven a lot of these use cases into what would be more mainstream, so that at every phase, there's a different sort of expectation for demos. But let's, Andre, tell us more at Shopify about how this has worked for you all, and what did you think about when you thought about initial use cases and stakeholders?
Yeah, I think big picture, it's exactly what you mentioned. At the different stages of the sales cycle, we wanted to have a type of demo. We always had a team dedicated to those complex, highly customized demos. So naturally, we went the complete opposite direction and said, let's start with some low-hanging fruit with some leave behind demos. So we created and captured 4 demos that, with the help of our marketing team and our SE teams, to define, what those critical areas that are highly repeatable, very quickly targeted, and put those into our digital sales rooms for our reps to use and share as part of their outreach at the different sales stages. So that was our initial use case that we pushed out with. And of course, we're on a big mission. We want everyone here at Shopify to be able to demo. So that being from, someone in sales, which of course you'll demo, but, somebody in support, someone in product engineering, or me, I can go in and do a demo at any point in time using one of our reprise captures.
That's awesome. That's a big it's a big undertaking, I can imagine, to then make leave behinds available and drive a different behavior in a sales team very specifically versus pre-sales, where they are inherently, maybe in some organizations, not to say necessarily Shopify, less comfortable relying on demos themselves. Can you tell us just a little bit more about how you instrumented that? So how it sounds like you created a library of leave behinds. And then was there sort of training required for your AE team to figure out how to consume them and when best to use them?
Yeah, I think what the beautiful part of leave behind demos is that it doesn't require a lot of training. Yes, it does require a little bit of knowledge. So we actually used Reprise to capture some of the training on how to deliver and how to use those leave behind demos. So we try to use Reprise in everything that we do. Another part of my team is the tooling enablement as well. And we kind of use Reprise to demo our tools and our features and everything else. So naturally, we wanted to use it to showcase how to actually take advantage of the demos. We create a library of all of the available demos. We actually also store them in our sales content management system. And then we include them as part of digital sales room templates as well. So it's, it kind of goes full circle. You get all of the insight information, and then you also get the signals that says that, hey, your customer X has opened and reviewed your your demo, your self-guided demo. And now me as a rep, I have a signal to follow up in the next couple of days.
Yeah, ends up being a help. Patrick, I see you smiling on that one. You go ahead.
Well,
You
yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
comment.
that's the dream, right? Especially with a product that it's pretty robust. That sales cycle can be, can take a little while, and that disconnect between the initial marketing activities and where you are in that sales process. The worst thing that can happen is you take a lead and you push them into inactive or remarket or reassign, right? And to me, one of the most spectacular things that demo content can do is if a customer has gone into inactive, a prospect has gone into inactive, and suddenly they are poking around, spending some time actually in demo content. Video is another one of those. But to me, that's an opportunity for a rep to reach out right there and pick that conversation up, right? Because they really are demonstrating interest in a way that really can't be indicated in many other ways on the platform, on the for website or other. And so that's a fantastic opportunity to have an organic conversation with that prospect right there, person to person, about what they're trying to achieve and the business outcomes that they're moving toward.
And probably helps, I would imagine, and we see this at Reprise, it helps your reps really buy into the fact that this is a tool. This is, like, remember the days people would be like, oh, I saw Courtney opened my email. I'm going to call her right now. Well, here you are. We're going through an actual demo of somebody's product. And you can say, oh, wow, this organization has 3 people checking this out. I'm going to now follow up. And the context is significantly greater.
The best example of that is you just described as 3 people, right? That it puts you at the water cooler in that environment, in that team, having that conversation, and then knowing which demo they're looking at, maybe which stage they're looking at, means that you can pick up that conversation right there. And then it's not a cold call. You're not starting with, hey, we're looking at just Salesforce and notes and trying to pick that up. You know exactly where they are, what they're thinking about, and then can pick that conversation up right there.
Yeah, it's a big help. This leave behind use case is a very interesting one. And to offer one comment back to Andre, what you said, we also do the same thing, which is that we use a bunch of replays to enable our own team. And it has worked really well. It's just a nice re-emphasis around what the story is meant to look like and how it should be told. And I mean, obviously we should do that because we work here, but it has proved to be very helpful in our go-to-market. Okay, we'll give this topic like 2 more minutes, but I wanted to just quickly touch on, when you talk about making the case for a demo program, you guys each talked about your starting points. What sort of value metric did you have to use in the beginning to get support for the program? Because you're not going for the big thing. Everyone's going, we're landing. We want to start somewhere. What did you use to make the case? And maybe we'll start with Anjali on this one.
Yeah, so Courtney, again, I think at different companies I have worked, it's been a little bit different, right? But I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of times it's been the hyper growth phase where it's impossible to scale your demo engineering teams the same way as your product is growing or your company is growing, right? And by company growing, I mean, one of the companies I worked for, we had like 10 acquisitions in a year and everybody wants a demo right there. Right. So I think honestly, in all of the companies, I think we had a proof of POC phase with Reprise, right? So which
Yeah.
was evident to show the value that it can and like the speed by which we can sort of from NPI perspectives also, which is new product introduction for some of the folks who may be new to this term, right? To enable sort of like, hey, that scale and growth and speed to market for the demos, right? So I think that itself, I think was a main use case.
Yeah, speed to market, and I can see the both is obviously, given the scale that you're describing in much of these organizations, is going to be a really important measure. I mean, certainly being in a place with 10 acquisitions in a year, just the team aspect of that, let alone all the products that are being demoed, so much complexity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was in a smaller company that went IPO when I was working, and now ServiceNow, of course, we are much bigger, right? And I think just the rate at which technology is changing, right? And sellers want to show the latest, right? And I think the people, whatever it be it integration, be it new product features, both organic and like outside product features, sellers want to have it in their hands, right? So I think that itself, I feel like is a big use case, because doing that with live demos is incredibly hard to have something like that available at GA. That's not easy because your product is still like working on it, right? So
right. The
have
product
that,
is not quite ready for said thing.
Yeah.
Yes, you're very right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Patrick or Andre, anything you want to chime in on how you showed how you made the case?
Andre, you ready to go first?
Sure, absolutely. For us, we knew that we needed to be able to scale our demos, and similar to Anjali, she was mentioning, that was the most important part. And the idea is that we want to accelerate each of our sales stages using demos. Me being on the receiving front of all of the technology that we vet for our revenue tooling, I know how important a demo is. And at each sales stage, if you can give me a good demo, that will make me move forward much faster. So the last thing that was left for us to do is really get full buy-in from all of the different teams, right? Because it's not just my team. We're not going to be able to create everything. So we worked with the sales teams, we worked with the SE teams, the marketing teams, the product teams, and we documented each of the different demo types based on the sales stage that we wanted to tackle it, and proved that there's a solution for each sales stage that will help scale our SEs and demo engineering teams. Early stages, you shouldn't have to use a SE or a demo engineer or highly complex demos. Those you can get highly reusable, repeatable demos that are easy to use. So that's where we started.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk about the partnership with the SE team, right? The sales team that manages usually the SE platform. That's really one of the critical places to start. And for me, I actually was that person in a former life. My last company, we went through that hypergrowth phase of where I got to be one of the very earliest employees. I basically was just me and my laptop building, trying to build a demo platform. And over a 5-year period, which is an amount of time most people don't get, I was able to put together a platform that would support marketing activities of, we have 40 to 50,000 visits in a day. It touched 95% of every deal. It was always available. I had a little higher availability than the website even. And it was just this ubiquitous component that was obviously a capital asset to the company. But that really is a dream situation that most marketers or sales teams are not in, where you need to create a demo platform and a demo program based on the assets that you have at hand. And so in this case, like that, you're absolutely right. Like the SEs are a fantastic team. The SE team is a great place to start. If you're lucky and you actually get to collaborate across silos to work with marketing and with sales, especially maybe if your pre-sales organization is separate, or maintenance renewal team or the support team or some of the other teams that are making sure that new features are showcased for the existing customer marketing team, for example, to make sure that they're, you're encouraging upgrades, for example, to reduce the possibility of churn from a customer who absolutely loves you but doesn't understand all the new capabilities that they get every time they unlock, right, or adopt new technology. So that process for scope is that demo programs are the most obviously wonderful thing in the world when they're running well, but until you have them, you really are selling the organization just like you're selling the product or service that you offer outside. And so thinking about it from that perspective of getting this thing off the ground, I need to make it look, it needs to be obviously good. It needs to fit into budget. It needs to be as low resource intensive as possible, especially in the early phases. So you're looking for high value, low impact on external stakeholders, and partnership that really does enable and excite the other areas of the other departments of your organization that are going to be the supporting characters for what you're going to be delivering in terms of demo. So again, it starts small with scope so that you can make sure that what you're delivering is really, really high value and obviously good. And then let that speak for the capability of what the demo program can offer. And then, as Anjali was mentioning, then be ready to essentially now become a product manager over that entire program, right? Because it starts with the content, people start to get excited about it. But in terms of, we're talking about instrumentation before, like what does it look like to fully integrate demos and from front facing to leave behind with Marketo and Salesforce to make sure that you actually can have somebody that could bring a rep to a page that actually shows the sorts of interactions that your prospects are having. That is something that for a lot of demo teams, a lot of times the teams that are assigned with creating demo programs might not necessarily be in their subject area of expertise. So be ready to start learning about that. If you're coming from the SE background, be ready to go and talk to the marketing team about how do they do tracking and instrumentation? How can you take advantage of the tools that they already have so that you are integrated from the beginning, so that the friction, the consumption of the demo output, and then the insights that are coming from that program is as low as possible. Because again, you're trying to provide not just, hey, these are clicks, but be able to demonstrate the values of those clicks. And then if you can do that, you don't have to make the case. The case for the first piece, that piece is usually easy. Is the part where you got to think about it, be mindful about it. But if you are successful with demonstrating early great demo results in a smaller scope, the organization will pull that content across the organization. At that point, now you're just about scaling up the program to make sure that it works at scale and it's dependable.
It's a fantastic point. And Patrick, I appreciate you saying that because I then don't have to offer a summary on this, because you've said it so well, which is getting started to conclude. You can start small. Everybody here has said the same thing. Start small, put this in a box, but 2 points we'll leave. And then we're going to talk about gaining traction in more detail. Patrick, you called it being a product manager of your demos. It is exactly that in a lot of scenarios, which is now this is your product. This is your thing, no matter what the use case is, no matter what your role is. And then the cross-functional collaboration, like any product manager who is like spending their entire day working across teams, hearing from customers, working with Eng, working with sales. It really appears to be very much that job. And if you can do that well, you'll get the support you need. So the importance of collaboration, the behavior like a product manager, really, really resonant. And now we're going to talk a little bit about, and very clear across this entire group, that you didn't try to do everything first. And that's hard, right? Because I think when pressure is placed on a product, you will hear from a go-to-market team, well, I need this, and I actually need my POCs to go faster, and I need my live demo first call to be better, and I need this. And it is on the person or team owning the program to say, but what is the most urgent starting point? And then we'll get into the traction topic. Now you've had traction, what do you do? So let's talk, I'm gonna actually, you guys talked a little bit about what you built first in very great detail. Let's talk about how you gained adoption, because I think we spent a second here saying you clearly understood your first use case. People, each of you discerned across your teams what those use cases were. They were top of funnel, and then they were enablement. They were leave behinds in the case of Andre. They were an augmentation on the pressure of a 45-minute live demo in the case of Anjali. Now you have an organization that goes, wow, that really helped me. How did you gain adoption to ultimately expand to what looks and behaves more like a broader demo program? Who wants to go first?
I can go. That's been my life, our like my team's life for the last 1.5 years, and we're very incredibly proud of what we have gained here. So I feel like I can go here. But yeah, it was definitely a phased approach. I think we all agree like it has to be like start small and then grow. For us, it was even more important, I would say, given we have such a massive sort of live demos where each SC has live demos. So, there was a big change management also, not just introducing new, but also the change management associated with it. Because sometimes if you go too hard on it, it could have totally backfired also. So we definitely had phases, right? And the use case based and sort of the audience based, right? So we often talk in our at ServiceNow as like, hey, the demos, they are either one-to-many or one-to-one. Right. So one-to-many is because we have a group of individuals, my sister team that creates awesome demos, right? And so that group is called Demo Engineering. And we started with that group as the first because it was, hey, those are the people that can create those one-to-many demos, right? They are standard demos. You get out of so they were already creating live demos. We just added a new format of demo using Reprise, right? Like, hey, can you also build in addition to what you're doing as this? Sometimes in addition, sometimes in place of that, right? So that pretty much was our first group, which was quick followed by our product marketing group, right? Because they are also creating those demos that are consumed by multiple folks, right? So for the events and stuff. So that was the one-to-many phase. And then once we saw some good traction, we felt comfortable that, hey, people are reasonably able to create well demos, right? From like creating side and from, of course, from the other side, like, hey, it's well received, the feedback. People really cannot like figure out the difference between live and what a Reprise demo is. We felt pretty good. Then we moved on to that like one-to-one, right? Which is more sort of giving access to specialist SCs who already have demos or who can take a standard demos and then start customizing it or put those different flows. So I think in our case, that worked very well as we thought about it. And literally, I think it all goes to what we were talking in the beginning about, hey, it's not just a tool. You need to have a plan, right? So you have to literally have that strategy in head. So that this was all like phased approach. Hey, Q1, we are going to do this. Q2, this is the end of year goal, right? So slowly we gained traction both from the presenters, but also creators. And right now we have like 500 creators in Reprise, right? Which I think is awesome, the scale that we have been able to achieve. But that's more on sort of the building and how we like figured those phases. But we did quite a bit internally to gain traction and adoption also. So first from the builder community itself, right? Again, as you think it's 500, now it can be something to manage. So we really created a community internally where we connected these people on our teams and stuff so that they can share ideas and like their sort of what they are doing and what's the cool thing to have that excitement. We regularly do best practices session. We do a quick onboarding session. So I think that all has helped the builder community, right, to get on board. But then on the presenter side, of course, you're creating all these and it's only as important as you can find them and use it, right? So we launched actually an internal portal to help finding, learning, and delivering all types of demos much easier. And that's like a big shift, right? To live, to like, hey, we have different formats of demos now. And so that portal has played a very important role. And again, it's on ServiceNow. So anybody looking to do something similar, right? That's been like huge, right? So we find executives going there searching for these demos, right? Like, hey, we have again, it's a big organization of thousands of SCs, right? All different types of SCs. So anybody internally and across, like not just SC org, even people outside SCs, right? Because there are different pockets who may be still like using these demos, right? So they go and find the demo in that portal. So that has done a very good job of like surfacing like these demos and help in the adoption.
Yeah, I'm gonna sort of double click on this point, Anjali, because I happen to know your use case, but I happen to know that this is certainly pervasively true across this panel. The accessibility of the demos as some level of library is instrumental to adoption. And Another example of things that we also see internally, but our customers and across the industry, anyone's customers relative to demo creation, the translation of I understand the problem, we have built the right set of assets, and we've made it easy for you to find and use these things. It can't be understated how important that is, but maybe Andre and Patrick, when you talk about gaining adoption, give us a little bit of color into that too, because even hearing Anjali's scale and 500 builders and thousands of consumers, it is not easy to make content accessible to all different types of people. Oh my gosh, I always have the balloons go. To all different types of people, no matter their role. So over to you, Patrick or Andre, you guys are good at deciding who goes. Tell us more about adoption and access.
Okay, I'll go this time first. Yeah, so we, to kind of carry forward Anjali's point there about one-to-many or many-to-one, is that we started actually with product tours on the website, right? And that was to meet the need, especially for IT operations, where you have lots and lots of fantastic web copy, right? Really great descriptions of how the product works, about business outcomes that are related, and then lots and lots of acronyms for all the different related technologies that it interfaces with. But someone is eventually going to need, an activated champion is going to need to evaluate, just to say, does this product actually exist, or is this just screenshots, right? And so the ability to answer that question and have a guide-based flow on the website was where we started. And I sort of describe that as demos that were on Rails versus ones that are choose your own adventure, which is more of an SE demo, right? And so we had an SE, the SE Teams demo is amazing. It's got thousands of different potential views. It is really comprehensive and it's great, but it's the kind of thing that you would not throw a new visitor cold into and expect them to actually be able to understand the value of what they were looking at. It'd just be overwhelming, right? So that first version was the one-to-many version, and the instrumentation was key, right? Being able to make sure that for what the marketing team needed to make sure that they had the proof that it was actually part of the lead generation flow, that they could look to see like what the relationship was between different types of content and where it might be embedded within the website, how people are accessing it. But really quickly, I realized that what we really needed to do, going back again to what Anjali mentioned, was version control needed to be a big part of that, especially if you were looking at a deal flow that may have a few months as a part of that lead gen process. What was the content like at the time that lead first was generated? So not just the version, but where you're really trying to tune for fewest clicks to CTA, right? Like, how can I demonstrate the value as quickly as possible to meet the need around curiosity, to actually see and touch the interface, and then move them into the next phase to really dive deep into how that capability can benefit them. So that was that first piece. And being able to get that off the ground and adoption was fairly straightforward because most of the instrumentation necessary for that was within the marketing team. Now, the SE team, of course, with a fantastic demo rig that they were able to use on a regular basis, maybe they were a little bit skeptical at first, right? The idea of why would I want to mix in what effectively look like pre-recorded or pre-captured sections of demo? And for them, it was helping them realize that, if there's 20,000 potential views that they could go into inside of that live demo environment, not everyone is going to be an expert in those tendrils of that last mile of all of those different capabilities. And especially for our IT operations, where you have to not only sell your product, but you really need to be an expert in all of the downline technologies that your product integrates with as well, right? ServiceNow certainly is an example of this as well, where you need to actually be an expert in a lot of other technologies. And so for them, we were able to demonstrate that they could do dedicated captures and actually package and leave behinds for specialized areas of technology or service or capability, and then add those into the Sales Hub that's used as a part of the distribution for that content, so that it would make it easy for someone to find something where it might be an edge case to one SE, but it's something that they do all day for another, to be able to incorporate into a larger conversation. Again, version control is important to that, but the key for adoption for them was actually a lot of enablement training. I think we've talked about this a little bit before, is that if you give someone a demo that they have a lot of different options that they can click, a lot of different stories that they could tell, you need to make sure that that's documented. And so I would produce, make sure that we had video versions with a subject matter expert that was related to the original capture. That's the, you can do it. This demo will work for you, right? Encouragement for them to get started, to then read the follow-on documentation, and then updated docs with timings, where to click, how to actually use that, so that the very first time that they pull it out of the resource catalog, it comes with enablement training so that they can be successful with it the very first time that they use it, gain confidence, and pretty soon it goes into their regular catalog of content that they're comfortable with on many different types of calls, many different engagements. But again, the adoption for that broader team involves enablement to make sure that they are supported, so that the first time that they see it, it's a self-serve experience. They don't have to they don't have to get online and go talk to the SME that actually created that in the
Yes,
first place.
right.
They can get it on their own.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they can get it on their own. Go ahead.
Yeah, Patrick, I'm just listening and I'm like, hey, maybe we just operated in silo, but maybe our thought process was so same, right? I think we have the same, like we always think find, learn, and deliver. And that learning piece, right, is so important, right? Like we always have these assets. You have a video assets, you have a guide to like, hey, how to use it. And so important, right? Because that's how people know, like you may have an asset, but if you don't tell them how to use it, you're not going to get the adoption.
Yes, not unlike trials 6 years ago. Come to my trial and use my database. And then you're like, now what? Or now I didn't do anything. Patrick, so helpful. And I think the find, learn, deliver is a very resonant point too, which is, and Patrick, you're uncovering exactly what that has meant. Not same words, but same structure, which is if you're going to create it, make sure you make it easy and very clear. Maybe not easy, but very clear for somebody to understand how they can consume and use it and why they want to use it. Give it a purpose. Andre, how about for you?
Yeah, I know we're running short on time, so I'll keep it short. It's a lot of what Anjali and Patrick shared. In addition, we have kind of a sales enablement learning badging system. So there's specific demos that you basically have to take the training on best practices, how to share that demo, how to deliver it. And then once you receive that badge, you can get access and start using those demos. We also kept a close eye on all of the metrics, and it was quite amazing to see all of the numbers of views and sessions continue to go up into the thousands. And that's how we got them hooked, right? We showed them that the demos are getting traction, they're being shared, they're making a difference at the different stages of the opportunities. And then we also played an interesting game as part of our roadshow. Is we did a lot of internal demos to our SLTs, to different teams, and those included showcasing our current revenue technologies and so on. And we used Reprise for it. And it turned into a game of, is this Reprise or is this the actual instance? And, you know, the answer
that is fantastic.
But
so they were fooled in a good way.
They were fooled, yes. And it was always at the end of the presentation is like, by the way, did you notice this was using Reprise? And nobody knew.
And nobody knew. That is absolutely, even people, you're talking your own SLTs, people who are deeply familiar with your tech.
Exactly.
So really good strategies there. Go ahead, Anjali.
No, I'm just saying I echo that, Tanja. We did something very similar at ServiceNow and very intentionally, right? To see like before we put it in front of customers, like let's have your executives, like let's put it in front of our executives and see if anybody can see the difference, right? And actually there was some friction initially, right? Without actually seeing it. But like once you do it, I think it helps you gain so much more adoption and traction.
That is awesome. I love these tips. I'm taking some of them back to my own team, actually. When I think we do this well, there's always places to learn. Let's do this. We're going to talk about scale and maturity. We've touched on several of these topics. We have about 8 minutes, and I want to make sure we do 2 things. Everybody here has basically a parting word of wisdom that I want to make sure we make time for. So we're going to give this topic 5 minutes, and then we're going to do parting words for the final 3. Let's start this time with Andre, although you did just wrap up. But what I think people, and I saw it in the chat earlier today, which is when you're looking to gain support. I'm sort of skipping the first question because I feel like this team has talked a little bit about the use cases for your demo program today, which is so fantastic. But when you have to tie it to value, not only when you're starting, but when you're up to decide to say like, hey, is this a tool I should keep? Is this helping my team? How do you know it's an obvious area of investment? What are your go-to measures for value within each of your organizations and programs? And Andre, for you first.
Yeah, I think we focus on a lot of data metrics, a lot of feedback, right? It's feedback from our customers. It may be indirect. Are they resharing our demos that that we send to them? Are they being, shared to all of their teams, right? Are we converting more people to our platform through this? We collect feedback from our sales teams. We give them the ability to rate our demos. Are they good? Are they bad? We continue to monitor and trigger those actions I was speaking about earlier around, we use this demo. Has it been viewed by our merchant? And then now our reps have the ability to know, okay, yes, this but has been used. I'm going to give this merchant a call just to follow up, and just keeping an eye on our sales stages. Additional key metrics, I'll keep it short here, that we're targeting is obviously increased conversion rates, higher average deal value, right? Are we using our demos to cross-sell? Are we having faster close rates? Are we increasing the volume of opportunities closed per sales rep? Because now they can act so much faster. They can use these demos without necessarily having to do it live, etc. And then a big one is a reduction in solutions engineers' time spent on all of the demos, right? Can they focus on those more critical, more complex, more higher value demos at the later stages? And then, of course, lower cost per demo, because we're going to do so many demos at different sales stages. Those are important metrics for us.
Yeah, that final one, I'm sure if I could see the chat, but there are probably questions around this thing, which is the time spent by SEs. If you are a practitioner who does this every day, it's really hard to quantify. But one of the most clear measures or consistent measures we've heard is saying, hey, listen, example, I no longer go to a first call demo. First call demos were taking 40% of our time. I've at least eliminated that piece of work by being able to do demos. But I think if you are very specifically a pre-sales team trying to gain support for something that's going to help you and your team scale, really getting underneath not only are these value points throughout the funnel on conversion and time and win rate and average deal size, but also in time saved across a team that's typically quite strapped. So Andre, it's a fantastic point. Who wants to go next on measuring value?
Okay, I'll go next. So, and since we are kind of coming up on the end, I'll sort of include a little bit of a parting word around it, just to sort of summarize it, because Andre's absolutely correct. I mean, the basic metrics there, whether it's conversion rate, whether it's the average deal size, cross and upsell across existing companies, churn prevention, sales support time, for example, SE overall efficiency. All of those are absolutely critical to monitor, because you're going to have stakeholders, especially if your demo team, your demo program spans multiple areas of the business, all of whom are going to have different metrics that they're going to need to include in their roll-up statistics as well, to make sure that your demo program is really contributing well to their individual missions, of which you were usually a part. But I was going to say that one way to think of it is, I mean, besides the fact that thinking of your demo program as a tier 1 component of your business, because it really is, it's the product that sells the product, right? So the discipline and rigor by which you deliver the program is really key. But the demos should be a place of not just enjoyment, but relief, right? Is that they are usually there to solve a challenge that a lot of times the organization doesn't really believe can be solved, or people within the organization can't figure out how to solve them. It's one of those things where if you see it, you know that it's amazing, but until it's been seen, that's not necessarily the case. And so whether it's a prospect who's looking at demo content, concerned that how am I going to address a challenge directly with product? The relief is, wow, this looks like this demo is making me feel really great about this experience. I feel relief. It's a human experience. If it's a sales engineer, repeatability is something that they care about, right? So the relief there is this content is available in the catalog. There's a self-service process for me to be enabled to use it. And then the first time that I use it on the phone with a prospect, it works great. And it works every time the way that I expect. It helps them sleep better at night, knowing that that catalog is available and that the content is going to work. So again, it is relief. So in terms of demonstrating value, like it can be a little squishy, like with video and some other aspects of content, but where you are delivering relief to human beings with demo content, it is much, much easier to demonstrate the value because people know that value and they can feel it, in a really direct and even emotional way. The metrics are there to support it as part of the integration with the business, but making sure that people are relieved to receive that content that is rolled up in a demo is a great way to know where to take your program.
Really good measure. That's the human element paired with the sort of stats and measurement there is so important. And then Anjali, one for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Andrea and Patrick, you covered most of it, right? I think the only other thing I would add is we all are getting pushed every day, right? With this massive rate of technology, right? Like it's Gen AI, then it is integrations, it is acquisitions. I'm sure all of us are like seeing it, right? Like a demo that was like new, like yesterday, already in a month, I'm thinking about, hey, what's next? And I think honestly, one of the metrics could just be like, hey, how soon I can enable my sellers? Because the expectation definitely from top, from executives are like, hey, go start selling this. This is going to come soon. But I think sometimes you can talk about it, but the truth is, I think it goes a little bit, Patrick, to what you were saying, like, if you have something that you can show, that does wonders, right? So I think how soon can you do that? Do I need to wait 3 months, or can I have it actually even on the date is launched? Can I have something available?
So helpful. And hopefully here, now I think a lot of advice has been given and we're right at time. So I'm going to do one last thing. This puts pressure because I didn't ask for this in advance. So this is ad hoc. If you were going to give one sentence of advice to somebody starting their program, this one thing, the thing that just came to your mind when I threw this question out there, what is the thing you would say? And then just know if you've asked a question, we're going to wrap them up. This dialogue has been so fantastic. Who wants to go first?
I can go. I would just reemphasize, map your sales cycle to what demo asset you need. Step 1. Step 2, don't think about just getting started, have a plan. Really think demos as a product and have a roadmap and a strategy.
Awesome. This demos as a product, I love. Who wants to go next? Patrick?
Okay, I'll go next. So the second one is, I think I mentioned it before, is be a product manager for your demo program and think about the demo more than just that initial delivery of content to satisfy a need that is a burning desire from one part of the organization, but think about how you're going to maintain that over time, how you're going to track that over time, extend it over time, and then increase the quality of the demo assets that you're delivering over time. Because if you can do that, it will be obvious the value of the program that you're delivering.
Awesome.
So
And
good about the volume. Go ahead, Andre.
yeah, demos take a village. Get the right buy-in at the beginning. Demos sell. Get started today. That's where I will leave it.
I like that. I'm a marketer. I'm going, get started today. I love that. Andre, Patrick, Anjali, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your perspective. One thing is for sure, it is very clear in this dialogue that each of you and your teams have had to be true champions of something you have passion for, and it has resulted in a meaningful demo program of all different shapes and sizes. So thank you for your willingness to share this with this audience. Please know if you've asked any questions, we will be sure to follow up. And in the meantime, have a fantastic day. And thank you, panelists, for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.